I am so excited to be here. I can't tell you what a blessing it is. I so respect the office of the pastor, and I so respect my own pastor. And so to just sit in your presence here today has been a blessing to me. And to have the honor of sitting with Pastor McGuire yesterday while we had lunch, and he poured words into me, and I really appreciate that and appreciate all of you. I don't know how many of you caught the news this morning. The blaring demonstration that was on the news this morning was the Chicago Teachers Union. I don't know if you all caught that. They are on strike, putting 400,000 kids out of the classroom. That is a disaster, especially when you look at the graduation rate, and when you see the little handout that I gave you. On the very back page is the black male dropout rate in the country, and I think Chicago is like 50% or less of our black males graduating from high schools in Chicago. So it's just a travesty that they would worship at the altar of the dollar instead of making a way to get that thing settled. And what they're fighting over, they rejected a 16% pay increase in Chicago because they want to do away with teacher quality. So that is their main problem there in Chicago. They don't want teacher accountability. They don't want teacher quality. They'd rather strike, put 400,000 kids out of the classroom for that. So we just need to be aware of what's happening in the country, especially where teachers' unions are concerned. They're very, very powerful. They put lots of money behind candidates, and so that's why a lot of times we can't get black legislators to come on board with school choice, because a lot of times these unions fund their campaigns. So just so you know that. I want to tell you just a little bit of how I got started with this whole thing. I was a parent first. Before I became an activist, I was a parent. And I walked into the classroom to see my child sitting at the wall with 3 pieces of cardboard around his desk, and that's where he spent his day at school. I knew inherently that something was wrong with that. So we started going to education committee hearings. I started visiting the school a whole lot more often. I started going to these education committee hearings in Indiana, and just started learning what the whole landscape was as far as legislation, laws concerning our children, laws concerning education. And then I found me a couple of parents that wanted to go with me, and we felt like we were alone. We were stumbling in there, parents, wide-eyed, kind of trying to understand all this legislative speak, bills and all this stuff. We didn't know what they were talking about. All we knew was that our kids were in trouble and we needed a better educational system. Well, after going to those a lot more, you started to pick up on what was being said, and then we found out that we were kind of alone. We felt like we were. Well, fast forward to 1999, where I met Dr. Howard Fuller, who is the professor of education at Marquette University. And we joined up with about 15 people in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He also was going to meetings, and when he was going to these meetings, listening to education being discussed, black children, who I look at as commodities, they're traded just like pork and sugar and all these things that are traded at Wall Street. Well, I feel like our kids are commodities. To each of our children is basically attached $6,000 to $8,000 per student to get them educated. So you have to know that the public schools do not want to let these kids off of that plantation. They want to keep them right there so they can keep that funding coming into their schools, whether they're learning or not. And that's why they also don't mind if these kids drop out, if they don't come to school. They don't care. Once they have that count date there and they have that money on the budget for those kids being at the school enrolled, then they pretty much lose track. We found out that one of our schools in Indianapolis had 4,000 seniors enrolled, and 1,000 of them came out at the end of the school year. What happened to 3,000 kids? Where did they go? Where are they? No one tracks that. So these are some of the things that we were looking at. So Dr. Fuller would go into these meetings, and there were no black people at the table as these powerful white people that were working in education discussed our children. So then that's when he said, we need to do something about that. Much like Star Pioneer, he met with 17 of us in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then we began to discuss the idea of putting together an organization that agitated and advocated for black parents, poor parents, working class parents. And that's where the Black Alliance was formed in Washington, D.C. at the Mayflower Hotel right here in Washington, D.C. And our mission is right there on our handout there. It's on the very front. Our mission is to increase access to high quality educational options for Black children by actively supporting parental choice policies and programs that empower low income and working class Black families. That is indeed our mission. And then we took up the cause of parents like Kelly Williams Bowler, who is in your Hot Topics. There's a column in your Hot Topics tab about her. This mom from Ohio, Akron, Ohio, this pastor knows her, was arrested because she took her father's address. Her address was in a housing project where it was dangerous. She had made 20 different calls to the police from people breaking into her apartment. She then thought, well, I'll use my dad's address. Now, the school that served her community was horrible, and you'll see that in the article. They didn't meet near the standards that was appropriate for running a successful school. So she looked at the school that served the address where her father lived, thought, you know what, I think I'll put my kids there. They were half the time spending time at her dad's apartment anyway, and they arrested this sister. Arrested her because she wanted to make a choice to put her kid in a good school. It was a travesty. The Black Alliance for Educational Options joined up with her, went to court with her, helped her voice what she needed to do, put her on radio shows and everything to help her get her voice out there. So those are some of the things that we do. Some of the other work that we'll do, and you'll see our advocacy work also in our little flyer here that I've passed out to you. I'll start with in Wisconsin, where Dr. Fuller lives. Dr. Fuller was the previous superintendent of instruction in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For 25 years, he led that school district. He started a voucher program in Wisconsin that has been under assault ever since it was born. Ever since it was born, these poor parents are trying to use their vouchers there, and the teachers union and legislators, some Black, will fight that. Even though these are poor children in bad schools, these people will fight this and have fought it every year. And Dr. Fuller and our Black Alliance for Educational Options team is there in Milwaukee trying to make sure that program stays intact for those kids there and those families there in Milwaukee. My second example I want to talk to you about is Louisiana. When Katrina came through Louisiana, it just blew away not only a lot of what was going on there in Louisiana, but the schools were absolutely decimated. Black Alliance for Educational Options was very instrumental in working with Governor Jindal in starting up our charter school. We have a very robust charter school program going on now in Louisiana. Not only that, we now have a voucher program in Louisiana that gives these kids a chance to get a good education and come out of Louisiana or even stay in Louisiana if they want to and have successful lives. So that's going on. Our team did a lot of work there. And then the third one that I just have to have you pay attention to this one. The District of Columbia, right here in D.C., we have the 21st, Opportunity Scholarship Program. It was a program started by one of our former board members, Virginia Walden Ford, who has since retired. But she took parents, first of all, she started that program here in D.C. to help fund poor parents to get an opportunity to go to the school of their choice. When Barack Obama was elected president, he started his first day, he started to dismantle that program. His first day. We had to get people here. Our team came here to support Virginia, and Star remembers this. She drug parents up to that Capitol every day. Parents that weren't probably well versed, but they knew what they wanted for their kids. She drugged those parents up there. They were up there every day. Jenny, I would call her. Her feet would be swollen from standing on that concrete, but she kept going every day and got that program reinstated. So this is some of the work that we do. Some of the work that we do, and I'll tell you, Dr. Fuller was arrested. Kevin Chavis, who was a councilman here, was arrested for standing in front of the Department of Education, fighting on behalf of poor parents and getting them the vouchers that they had deserved and that they had worked for. So that's just a little bit about what we do. And then my day job, I work for the Indiana Department of Education. I work in the Office of School Turnaround and Improvement. And what that is, we found a law, Dr. Tony Bennett, who is leading the nation as far as superintendents of public instruction are concerned, leading the nation in education reform in Indiana. We found an underutilized law that said that we could then intervene in schools that had been failing for 6 years or more. Those schools, most of them were found in urban centers where they just let these kids just drift out of school, not having the diplomas that they were getting were not worth the paper that they were written on. These are some of the things that you want to pay attention to in your own cities, in your own states. What is the value of that diploma? Is it worth anything? 40% of our kids that came out of one of our turnaround schools were graduating on a waiver. What this means is when they go to college with this diploma, they can't get in because it's not worth the paper it's written on. Not only that, then if they try to go to a community college, they have to spend 2 years of remediation. Those are classes they have to pay for. So what they should have gotten in high school, they didn't get. So then they go to the community college, they have to pay for remediation and then 4 years for college education. So it not only lengthens the time, it makes it more expensive for already poor parents. So we have to demand that these high schools do what they're supposed to do as far as educating our kids. So we looked at that law, and we're turning around schools. And my friend Marie Gladney, I'll tell you, she graduated from one of these turnaround schools, went to the Army, tried to enlist, and could not enlist because she could not pass the basic exam. This is real life. This is real life. It's more than a theory for a lot of our poor parents who will look at the military as an option to go on through life. But if you can't pass the basic exam, then there's another shot in the arm for an already poor parent. So these are things that you want to pay attention to in your area. And again, things that you want to watch is the value of your diploma. What is the value of it? Take a look at that. Persistently failing schools. If you have those schools in your area, show up to those schools. Show up to these education committee hearings and put your voice in there. You certainly can do that. You have every right to do that. Graduation rates. What do your graduation rates look like in your states? What's happening with kids? Where are they going? Are they graduating? Are they enrolling in their freshman year and coming out at the end? If there's a disparity there, you want to look and see what's happening to our kids. Where are they? Options. What kind of options do you have? You can certainly go and start putting your voices toward charter schools, especially vouchers, where you would have the opportunity to start your own schools, to start your own tutoring programs. You can do that. Those are some things. Suspensions and expulsions. That's another thing we need to look at. Black children are disproportionately expelled and suspended from school. So we need to find out what's happening with those kids. Why are they being suspended? And maybe character education is some things that you can do as well. You can start, like I said, you can start schools. If you're not in the place of starting a school just yet, you may want to start some mentoring programs. And I think I talked to a couple of pastors. Pastor McGuire and I had a conversation about that. This brother here, we talked a little bit about how you can start finding out, why are kids being suspended? Why are they really being kicked out? That's the job of the church. We can really find out, what is their heart issue? What are they sorry? What are they hurting about? What are they sick about? What is it that's bothering them that they have acted up in school and now they're suspended? We got to find out what's going on with those kids. BAO supports all of the options. We support all educating children by any means necessary, as Star said. And we can help you with that kind of stuff. If you want to start up programs in your school, on the back of all of our contact information. Our president here, and Cherie Metlock, is our National Advocacy Director. You can email them or call the number that's right there and let them know what you need, and we'll send people out, or either we can talk you through it on the phone and help you understand what you can do in your own city. Our symposium, we have a national symposium, and we've had that for many years. Is going to be in Orlando, Florida this March. It is by invitation only because we don't debate school choice at this event. We support our people that come to learn more about it. If you're there to argue, we don't want you. We have you there because we're there to support what we're doing as far as educating Black children. So it's by invitation. So if you want to come to symposium, we would love to have you. Use my name. Please let them know that you heard and I can get you an invitation. Just tell them you want an invitation, and using my name will help you get on that list. We are in a battle for the hearts and minds of our kids. Bob and I were talking back there in the back. When we're looking at what's going on in schools, the promotion of gay marriage is in our schools, in our public schools. Creationism is being shot down in our schools. All of these things that we support is being shot down in our schools. And so we have to get in there. We got to show up to school, show up to the school board meetings. We can start with little things like that. If you don't have the wherewithal, the resources to start a school, go to a school board meeting. Find out what they're talking about. Look at the curriculum. As pastors, go in there and say, oh, I'd like to see what the curriculum look like in here. And go in there and show up and put them on Front Street is what I call it.